Hello all, I'm here to show you some information about an interesting feature on the moon called Tycho Crater. It's one of the newest craters on the moon, and but it's also, we can use it as a timepiece because almost like a giant sundial to help us figure out what direction the sun is from the moon, and it very clearly shows that the moon is a sphere. So, to give you a little introduction to Tycho, but before we do that, I need to show you this diagram about the phases of the moon. Now, probably you've seen something like this many times before in science class, or even videos telling us how the moon doesn't work while they want to argue with this. But the basic idea is that sunlight comes in from over here and then travels this way and lights up that side of the moon. And one thing that's interesting about this is that the bright side of the moon always faces towards the sun. The sun is that way. Here the sun is that way. The sun is that way. And you can, so from the point of view of the Earth down here, when we look at the moon right there, we can, from our point of view, we can see the whole thing lit. Here at an in-between angle, it's mostly lit. Here from a it's a quarter moon. When it's up here, we can see half of it lit. That's what we call it. That's what we call the quarter moon. And when it's over here, it's why we only see a little sliver of it. That's a crescent. This is one reason why you can kind of tell time by the moon, because you always see a crescent moon right around sunset and over near the horizon, and then it sets pretty quickly. You'll see a quarter moon usually at just about a 90-degree angle from the sun, wherever the sun is, and then a full moon, including lunar eclipses, always appear when the moon is opposite the sun over here. And then, of course, the new moon is over here. We don't really see anything, and it's lit, because the side that's pointed away from us is what's lit from the sun. So anyway, that's the basic idea. The reason I want to show you this is because Tycho Crater is on this diagram right in the middle. So it's right there, or if we look at it up here, it's about right there, and I'll show you a better idea of what that looks like in just a moment. So this is what Tycho Crater looks like. It's one of the prettiest craters on the moon because it has those rays emanating out from it. These rays only show up when the light's really pretty bright on the moon. So here they're a little bit fainter. In this picture you can see them a little bit better. It's down here in the southern hemisphere of the moon. When the moon is full, the rays of the crater show up. The rays are created by material that's been ejected from the moon after a meteorite impact. So you can see this map shows a lot of other craters. Some of the things that are interesting, you can use this map to kind of figure out where some stuff, like how to find Tycho Crater, because you can see that there's this dark area right here, and you can almost make a line kind of down the edge of this dark area right here to help you find Tycho Crater down there. Also, I'll show you another picture here. You can see I've oriented this one in the same angle. The other one, the original picture that I downloaded was was twisted like that. If you want to look at it this way, Tycho's down there, but I turned it because I'm trying to keep the orientation the same for you can see. There's another crater that's right below it that sometimes can help people find it. This one, Clavius, is pretty large. It's not as striking though. You can see how Tycho has like a nice little point in the middle of it. There's a whole conspiracy theory out there that Tycho has that mountain in the middle is some kind of alien technology or city or something, but you're welcome to investigate that if you like. But anyway, that's not why I'm here, so let's go on to the next one. So here again, it's that same map that I just showed you, but I found another picture here where the It's a little higher resolution picture, and it's a little bit farther away from the terminus. The terminus is this line right over here between the black and the white, the light side and the dark side. If you want, I set up an orange here I colored it in with marker on one side and not colored on the other side. And you can, right, I'm trying to show you here that this is sort of what the terminus looks like, that line where it goes from light to dark. So I don't know, well, you can't see it very well. I don't know if I have much use for my orange, but I thought I'd keep it on hand. It's not a very good looking moon, but it's got marker on it. So, all right, so anyway, here's what I'm trying to show you here. We got this, that's Tycho Crater, and you can see there, and then it's a little bit further away from the terminus, a little bit further away, a little bit further into the light side. All right, so let's take a look at some of these things. So here in this picture, I zoomed in a bunch on Tycho, and you can see right where the purple arrow and the white arrow pointing, that kind of semicircular dark arrow is just shadow created by the rim of the crater. And when it's over here pretty close to the terminus, it's got a pretty wide shadow. So let's back over here. Let's go along over here. Now here's that going back to that other photo I showed you. So I had those two photos side by side like these, right? So the first one I'm showing you is from the photo on the right with the labels, and the second one I'm showing you is from the second photo, a little bit further away, and you can see that the size of the shadow isn't quite as wide. All right, so a little bit, it's gotten a little bit skinnier as the bright side of the moon gets a little further away. Okay, here's another one where you can see Tycho. Here's one that's fairly brightly lit, and again, you can sight down along here on the edge of this sea here. Well, it's not a sea; they call it a mare because it's the ancient Latin word for sea. But when they looked at the moon without telescopes, they thought they were perhaps oceans. But if you look down here, we can zoom in again on this one. And let's see, do I have that one zoomed in closer? Yeah. So as the moon is getting more fully lit, you can see that the shadow on the moon, or on Tycho Crater, is getting skinnier and skinnier over here. Right? There's just a little bit of a shadow. It's hard to get super good pictures taken from the Earth, but I want to get pictures where I can zoom in and you can see that I'm talking about the whole moon, and then I just zoom in on the same photo. I could get a lot of close-up pictures of Tycho, but it's a little bit hard to tell because a lot of these pictures are rotated when they're posted online and we don't really know what we're looking at. So I'm trying to use only pictures where I can zoom in from a full-size photograph. So anyway, there it is. You can see the moon is bigger, are more fully lit, and the shadow is a lot skinnier. Okay, now I'm going to go here to when the moon is full, and again there's Tycho down at the bottom. You can follow along the edge of the mare, zooming in again, taking a look at the shadow. Now it looks like there's a faint little bit of a shadow along the top, on the top edge, right? It was quite pronounced over along this side, but now there's just a little faint line up there. Why is that? Well, it's because we're looking at the southern hemisphere of the moon, and so with the shadows, the angle of the moon is that crater's tilted down a little bit. Okay, so let's go here where now we're starting to see the moon. We're past full, right? It's starting to wane a little bit. And let's take a look at this crater, and we can see, oh, I guess that was all. All right, we can zoom in right here again on this one, and you can see now that the shadow is moved over this way, right? First it was over here, then it was up here, now the shadow's over this way. All right, now, wait a minute. Now we're up to, I've got a picture where now we're in a waning quarter, right? So we're well past full, and we're down to the point, we've gotten to the point where the moon is now lit on half lit on one side but not the other, but it's on the other side. So we're going to zoom in. Right, there's Tycho again down there. You can see that on this one they've labeled Clavius right below it, so we know we're on the right one there. And then as we zoom in on Tycho, now we can see that the crater is all the way over on, the shadow is all the way over on the far side of the crater. There it is. So we've gone all the way around. We started out with the shadow over here, right? If the sunlight is coming in from this direction, then the shadow is going to be on this side and that side is going to be lit. Now we've got the sun coming in from this direction, so the shadow's on this side of the crater and that side is lit. So, I know that there are people who say, well, maybe the moon is lit by itself. If that's the case, I don't understand why we get these patterns of shadows. If we the best explanation for this, the one that's most consistent here, is that the orbit of the moon is changing the moon's orientation to the sun, changing crater Tycho's or Tycho Crater's orientation to the sun, and that's what's changing the shadows. If you say it's not that, it's not the Earth or not the moon orbiting the Earth, you're going to have to come up with an explanation. Why is it that this crater always has different shadows, with the shadows on different sides? And what is the source of light that's causing the different shadows? So are we looking forward to hearing the interesting explanations that people might come up with? But until somebody can prove me wrong, I think this explanation is going to have to stand. So good luck. You're welcome to Google Tycho Crater yourself. I recommend it because NASA and other spacecraft have taken really good close-up photographs of it. We can see it in a lot more detail. But again, I'm just focusing on pictures that we've taken where we're looking at the whole moon, so I left all those out of it. Take care, get your binoculars, go find Tycho Crater.